Hey there, and welcome to the Transparently Jordan podcast, where I'll be talking with a new guest each week, and we'll be covering topics in health, fitness, lifestyle, and so much more. So stick around and let's get into today's episode.
This is Radiant Voices Media.
We felt shy to verbally communicate about our sexual needs and desires. So it's a little bit of practice that I do in the session with the client to verbalize and articulate what it is that they want. And part of it may be some creative strategies, because sometimes, again, because of the general broader societal stigma around sex, people don't feel very comfortable to directly and verbally communicate with their sexual partner.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode. I have a very exciting episode today. It is topics and discussions that I have wanted to have for a while. I have had a sexologist on the podcast on the show in the past, and I loved the conversation. I loved the ideas, and I have been wanting to do a more educational episode on different type of topics kind of coming up. And I am so happy that I have found a guest that was willing to come on the show. She is Adelaide based, which is also just makes life a lot easier for me being here in Adelaide as well, and with scheduling and whatnot. So yeah, I'm very excited to have this guest on the podcast. A little bit later, you will hear her discuss various topics in sex education, in relationships. We discuss kind of the psychology of kinks and a whole lot of different amazing topics. So stay tuned for all of that. I also am going to be posting a bonus episode this week. It will be posted a little bit later this week after today's episode. The bonus episode, I'm going to try to be posting bonus episodes every so often. And they are just going to be old episodes that I have taken off air because the quality is just shit, or because I wasn't happy with them and whatnot. I am going to revamp them, and I am going to be reposting them as bonus episodes. Some of the episodes, or most of the episodes, the feedback has been amazing, and they're actually some of my most listened to episodes. But again, me being a perfectionist and me just trying to set a good standard for the podcast, I again have taken them down, and I'm excited to be putting them back up again. I am super happy and super excited. Little life update. Most of you don't give a shit, but I'm excited, and it is my podcast. I have gotten my permanent residency. I am permanent here in Australia. I can stay for the rest of my life, which I am so happy for. It's definitely taken such a weight off my shoulders. I just feel a lot lighter. I feel like I can breathe. Little things are just it's just opened up, a lot of opportunity for me. And there's little things that, you don't think of. Healthcare, for example. I have not had Medicare for the last 5-6 years that I've been here. So it's been a bit scary, getting sick, or last year when I was in a hospital and had that emergency surgery. That was a pretty expensive overnight stay for sure. But yeah, I'm just so happy to have finally gotten the permanent residency. I was invited by the government to apply. When was it? Probably 3 or 4 months ago. I applied right away, paid the frickin' $6,000, and it was all worth it at the end because it got approved and I'm here to stay. I bought a new car last week, a brand new car. It is my first brand new car, and I am so proud of myself and so excited. So a lot has definitely happened over the last couple of weeks. This episode was actually meant to be posted a couple days ago, but I've just been so busy with life and with all of that it had to be a bit postponed. I am also training for a triathlon coming up in January, so literally all of my before work, after work, it's just training right now. My weekends, literally training. I think I'm training like 16 hours a week. Which I guess you kind of need to for triathlon and for endurance sports. But if I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. That's for sure. What do I want to do? I want to talk about something that's been on my chest recently. What the hell is up with 30-year-olds? People being plus 30. And you know when you're scrolling through dating apps and they have the option of still figuring it out? What the fuck, dude? You're in your 30s and you're still trying to figure shit out? It really grinds my gears. Like, what the fuck are you on these dating apps for then? To waste my time? Honey, I ain't looking for friendships. I don't need any more friends. I'm open to more friends, but I'm not coming on these dating apps for friends. So why are you on there still trying to figure it out? That doesn't, like, you're freaking balding and you're still figuring out. That is a little bit silly to me. That I just wanted to get off my chest because I've been back on the dating apps recently, putting myself out there. You know, I've realized that, I mean, I've always realized this, but I've never done anything about it. I am going to stay single because I just go to work, go home, go to the pool, go for a run, go for a bike ride, yada, yada, yada. Don't put myself out there. I did start at a new gym as well, like kind of what is it? What is it fucking called? The yard gym. So kind of like a group atmosphere, mainly just to meet new people and put myself out there. And it's actually pretty fucking fun. But I've been on the dating apps too. The issue in the past and the issue with being in Adelaide and being gay in Adelaide is you get the dating apps, you sign yourself up, you know, swipe, click yes, click no. It's literally all the exact same people that you clicked no to or that you chatted with fucking 5 months ago. It's just a big cycle. Like, it didn't work out then. Why is it going to work out now? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to meet somebody because I talk about this story with my friends all the time. I understand you need to leave your house to meet somebody. And I understand that, you know, you need to put yourself out there. But me, for example, I am not a night bird. I'm not a night owl. I do not go out in the evenings. I don't go to pubs. I don't go to bars. So that is off the list. No interest with that. I'm not really interested in meeting somebody who does that kind of stuff because I don't do that stuff. I don't enjoy that stuff. So that's a no for me. And then again, the sport that I do is a pretty selfish sport. I wake up at 4 a.m. I go to the gym. I go for my run, come home, go to work for 8 hours, come home again, cycle or swim or do what portion that I couldn't fit in the morning, and then eat dinner, get ready for bed, and repeat basically Monday to Friday. So don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to meet somebody unless it's at the gym, which, I mean, there are some cuties at the gym, but I've been at this gym for 2 years now. It hasn't happened yet. I ain't holding my breath, really. And then the weekends, again, I'm trying to do more. I'm trying to go to the farmer's market on Sundays. Just being out there, you know what I mean? Because hopefully I can find Prince Charming by running into him on the street, him knocking the coffee out of my hands and looking into my eyes and falling in love with me. And that's not going to happen unless I go to these places. So I'm trying to go to cafes, do my work there, do the podcast there. And It's exhausting. Hasn't happened yet. I am 29 years old, still don't have a boyfriend, still single. Hopefully one of these days, y'all. I, yeah, I am just kind of like done, really. So that's a little update from me. That's just something that I wanted to get off my chest. Enough of me rambling. We will get into today's episode right now. Again, today's episode, super informative. It is a very educational episode, and I am so excited that it has finally happened. Anissa jumps on the podcast with me. She is an Adelaide based sexologist. You can find all of her information in the show notes. We go through this at the end of the episode as well. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Well, welcome, Anissa, to the podcast. Thanks for being on here. How are you going today?
Thank you for having me, Jordan. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm excited to be doing this one. I've been wanting to have somebody like yourself on for a while now, but especially in Adelaide, it's hard to find people in the profession. So thanks for coming on here. Maybe get started by just telling us a little bit about yourself, Anissa, what you do, who you are, and give us a little bit of a breakdown.
So, my name is Anisa Varasteh, and I'm a clinical sexologist. I'm also the current president of the Society of Australian Sexologists in South Australia. So, I guess main question that most people have is, what's a sexologist? What do you
Yeah.
do? A sexologist is basically a psychologist or a psychotherapist who has had special training, so usually a master's degree in human sexuality. And so the work I do is with individuals as well as couples when they face issues in relation to their sexuality, sex life, gender identity, relationships. So I support them through the challenges that they experience.
So, I guess the first question is, what are some common misconceptions about sexual health and about, I guess, couples or individuals coming to see a sexologist?
That's a very good question. I think the main misconception about sexual health is that it's absence of a disease or infirmity.
Hmm.
Whereas sexual health is much broader than that. So, the definition of sexual health by the World Health Organization is your psychological, emotional, mental, and social, and obviously physical well being in relation to your sexuality. So, if you're, for example, not feeling safe or comfortable in relation to your sexuality, that's a sexual health problem, that's a sexual health concern. You may not have any STIs or any physical dysfunctions, even if it's related to maybe distress around a relationship, a sexual relationship that you've experienced, that's considered a sexual health issue. So that's in regards to sexual health. But there are also lots of myths and misinformation about people who seek support from a sexologist. And the main one is that they're either sexual perverts or freaks or people with significant sexual dysfunctions. And that's not true. Most of the people that I see and my colleagues see, they have relational issues, maybe challenges in regards to communication about their sexual desires and sexual needs with their partners. It may be conflict and resentment that they feel in a relationship, which can have an impact on their sexual relationship. One of the areas that I specialize in is sexual confidence. So, people who are especially single and they're dating and they don't feel very confident to date because they may worry about performance or communicating again about their sexual needs and desires. So that's an area that I support them with.
Right. So I guess when you have people like that who aren't confident um, and who struggle to communicate that, where do those people go?
So usually, what do you mean? Where do they go in terms of where do they seek help, or how do
Yeah,
I say?
I guess kind of what do you do and what do you
Mm-hmm.
recommend without,
Mm-hmm.
without giving all of the tips and tricks, but what are a few things that I guess you kind of give advice about with that regard?
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of sexual confidence, I think a big part of it is around self awareness. So, if you, firstly, you need to know what you want. Do you really know what you want and what you don't want? So, supporting people to break barriers internally to feel okay about their sexual desires and fantasies. And then the second step is giving them some tools to communicate with a potential sexual partner as well. Which, in terms of communication, I think it really depends on each individual and their circumstances and their partner. But generally, it's part of it is practice because sometimes we haven't had the opportunity or we felt shy to verbally communicate about our sexual needs and desires. So it's a little bit of practice that I do in the session with the client to verbalize and articulate what it is that they want. And part of it may be some creative strategies because sometimes, again, because of the general broader societal stigma around sex, people don't feel very comfortable to directly and verbally communicate with their sexual partner. In that case, then there may be other ways like texting or writing a letter or even leaving a voice message, recording a voice message that may be a bit easier to communicate about these things. So you take smaller steps to develop the confidence to then be able to communicate about your wants and needs.
Right. Okay. Those are great tips. Thank you. But I guess now maybe do you mind getting into people that might be in a relationship or maybe not in a relationship but are a little bit more confident and comfortable? What are kind of effective ways to communicate maybe new sexual needs and boundaries with a new partner?
So, with people who are in a relationship, or even people who want to just confidently communicate with a new sexual partner, what I recommend is if you've had any experience with this person, so if you've already once or maybe a couple of times have had sex or you are in a relationship with them, then you can start off by saying the things that you want more of. So saying, when you do this, I really love it, or it really turns me on when you do this. So you are giving feedback, what's working. Because I think what can happen in many relationships is that people only give feedback about the things that they don't want, or it's like, oh, I didn't really like that, or don't do this, don't do that. But they don't give positive feedback about the things that are actually working. And this could be a really good way to start the conversation about the things that you want to experience more of. So that's the one thing.
Great, great. And I guess what are some ways that partners can enhance, I guess, their pleasures or satisfaction or whatever it would be?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the second part of it is then you can focus on, and this is just one strategy, giving feedback about the sort of sensations that you would like to experience. So, I'd like to feel a little bit more pressure here or there. And it may not necessarily be about any type of genital touch, it could be about the way that you want to be caressed. Maybe your hair, you like your partner to touch your hair. So, focusing on giving feedback about the type of sensations that you'd like to experience, that could also be very helpful. So, the level of intensity of something that you want to experience as well. And the other thing is that if you want to enhance sexual pleasure with a partner, I always suggest people to think about it through the five senses lens. So you want to bring an element of the five senses into your lovemaking, whatever shape or form that has. So this means thinking about, for example, sight. What do I want to see when I'm intimate with my partner? And I'm not just talking about sex, I'm talking about emotional and physical intimacy. So, what do I want to see? This could be maybe you want to see some erotic art. Maybe you want to watch something together, like maybe an erotic movie together. It may be some photos of you that you were on holiday and it was a very relaxing or really fun experience for both of you. So, putting some images that you want to see around you that are either relaxing or sensual. Then think about sound. What do I want to hear? And this is really important for people that have a dominant auditory sensation. This means that maybe their primary learning style is auditory, so they learn by listening to someone reading something. This could be a cue that you are more of an auditory person. So, if you are an auditory person, or if you want to bring that auditory element, then think about what you want to hear. This could be maybe a playlist that you could put together, or maybe you can ask your partner to whisper something in your ear instead of just talking with a normal tone of voice. So really um, reducing the volume. Playing with voice as well can be very arousing for some people. Then think about, what do I want to feel? So tactile experience. This could be maybe you want a particular fabric. So it might be a silk robe that you want to wear. Or it may be that no, you want to be completely naked under the bed sheets. Whatever it is, maybe you want to feel warm and cozy. So think about feeling in terms of what you want to feel on your skin. And then we have taste. What do you want to taste? Maybe you want to start off the intimate session by sharing a piece of chocolate or a glass of wine together. And finally, smell. What do you want to smell? And this is something that a lot of people skip, and they don't realize how important smell is, because especially if this is your dominant sensory style, people can get very, very quickly turned on or turned off by a smell. So if you're that type of person, make sure that you ask your partner to take a shower beforehand, they brush their teeth, you brush your own teeth, and then bring that smell element into your lovemaking as well. It could be that you wear a particular perfume, or you ask your partner to wear a particular perfume or cologne, or maybe you want to have some scented candles around the place as well. So these are the five senses that you want to bring into that intimate session. And over time, when you do this every time, or maybe regularly, maybe not every time, but regularly, then the brain starts to associate these cues with sensuality, relaxation, and intimacy. And you will find yourself that you can enjoy that experience a lot more, or that you can get turned on a lot more quickly.
Awesome. Oh, that's really good tips, because I think, yeah, thinking about all the senses is quite a good thing to kind of keep in mind, because we all forget about, things like smell, taste, all of the things really. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to be bouncing back and forth, but Anissa, back to those low confident people, maybe even going back to the people that are so like unconfident or so embarrassed or shy about maybe coming out and seeing somebody like yourself or discussing these things with another partner and whatnot. What are some maybe like one step that you would give to somebody who is maybe on the younger side or older or whoever it may be, that might just be quite shy and embarrassed to kind of discuss these topics? How can they become a bit more confident?
Sure. Firstly, I think it's important to understand that it's a very common experience not to feel comfortable and confident to talk about sex and sexual desires with someone. Because regardless of our personal attitude and values in relation to sex, the broader society that we live in still considers sex as a taboo topic. It's stigmatized. So it's very common not to be able to talk about it comfortably and confidently. So don't, if you have judgments about this for yourself, just be a little bit more gentle and accept that it's okay to not feel very confident and comfortable about it. The second step is to reflect on why. Why do I feel uncomfortable or shy about this topic? Sometimes the messages that we have received from our environment, especially in childhood and adolescence, they can have a significant impact on how we feel about sex, about our own sexuality and sexual needs as well. And if you find that your feelings come from early childhood experiences or in your teenage years, think about whether you want to hold on to those messages that you have received, or maybe whether they're not relevant anymore. And you can replace them with new beliefs and attitudes.
Great. Now, Anissa, you touched on something that I think is quite important and quite interesting. You mentioned that the discussion is still quite taboo still. Quickly, why do you think it is taboo still, and what can we do, I guess, as individuals to challenge that and to try and break the mold?
Why sex taboo is a very deep and philosophical
Yeah.
topic, I think. And I'm really interested in finding out historically when did sex become taboo?
Yeah.
Because it's a natural part of being a human. And I haven't figured out the answer yet fully, but um, I think what you can do about it, or what we can do about it as individuals, is first of all understanding the impact that this can have, the silence around sex, for example, can have on everyone, on our own sexuality, on our kids' sexuality, and making an intentional decision to do something about it. And that could be maybe having open and vulnerable conversations with our friends about the challenges that we face in relationships with our close friends, or learning about underlying psychological factors in relation to sexual fantasies. What do sexual fantasies mean? So, doing a little bit of education for ourselves about sex, which can usually destigmatize it. And we will figure out very soon that we are not alone, because I think there is this myth that we all think that sex is a particular thing and everyone is doing it right, and I'm the only person who has weird sexual fantasies or desires, and there's something wrong with me. So we suffer in silence thinking that we are this perverted monster. Whereas in reality, there is no right way to be sexual. Obviously, there are legal ways, considerations, and ethical and moral considerations around it for sure. But in when you think about it from a human perspective, the spectrum of human sexuality is so broad that there is not a particular way of being sexual.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's quite interesting. Like you were saying, it is such a taboo topic. And I know we could spend probably hours discussing that. So thank you for bringing those points to light. I think a little bit later, we'll definitely talk about seduction and where it comes from and the psychological findings. But before we get to that, um, how, I guess, does somebody learn about their own sexual preferences and desires? How does one um, I guess, experience that and try and learn about themselves a little bit more?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, unfortunately, comprehensive sexuality education is not easily available for everyone out there. And so, in the absence of quality sexuality education, most people go to porn, which is not education. And I think this is something that we need to be very aware of, especially younger people, because imagine the example that the analogy that I give my clients is that if you wanted to learn how to drive, you wouldn't watch The Fast and the Furious, right? Because you understand that's not education, that's just thrill and excitement.
Yeah.
It's the same with pornography. It's the intention is excitement and thrill and arousal. It's not education. And in fact, it's not a representation of healthy human behavior. Similarly, that a James Bond movie is not real. You are not going to do what he does in his movies. So it's the same with porn. So don't watch porn to learn about sex. That's my first tip.
Yeah.
But where do we go then if we want to learn about sex? One platform that I have come across and I highly recommend is called climax.how, and I'm happy to share the link with you, Jordan. You can leave it in the show notes for people who are interested. They
Absolutely.
have, yeah, they have quality sexuality education for adults, and I found that platforms like this, and there is another one as well. Don't remember the name, but I'm happy to find that. And so you can access sexuality education there. Otherwise, thinking about generally where do you source your information, and it's not about sex in particular, but really thinking critically about where do I learn from something. Do you just go to social media? Well, that's not a really reliable source of information to learn about something. So thinking more broadly, maybe books, audiobooks, journal articles, and things like that. It's the same thing with sexuality as well, making sure that the source of education is a valid and reliable source.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll definitely post those links in the show notes, everybody. But maybe quickly going back to what you mentioned just then is, in your experience, do you or have you found that porn has any negative effects to people's sex lives?
Pornography, when used as a source of education, can definitely have harmful and negative effects on people's sexuality, sense of identity, body image issues, and also impact on relationships as well. So, the expectation that people form around sex, what is expected of them, or what they can expect of a sexual partner. And also, as I said, maybe genital size or body shape definitely can have a negative impact. The other thing that we need to be wary of is the way that we consume porn. And that is very similar to any other type of media, including social media. So if we use it mindlessly and just click from one video to another, get into this rabbit hole of videos, it's similar to any other type of media as well. So it can have the same type of effect in terms of addiction or addictive behaviors or out of control sense feeling that you get with scrolling anywhere, really, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok as well. So these are the two aspects, negative aspects of porn that you need to be aware of.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And finally, again, before we get to kind of the last topic, is maybe going back to partners and what people can do if, let's say, their sexual preferences or desires don't match. Is there anything that those people can do, or is that just something that they need to discuss about ending the relationship or whatnot? Because I think that's quite an important thing in relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I think communication is the first step. So being able to talk about it openly and vulnerably with your partner is really key. And if you can't, then I think it's important that you seek support from a professional to facilitate these conversations as well. That's the first step. And most often, I've found with people who come to see me that maybe initially they thought that they had a mismatched level of libido, or they had very, very different desires in terms of the type of things that they liked. But with open communication and creativity and playfulness and curiosity, they will soon find that they have a lot of things in common as well.
Awesome. All right. Now, going to a topic that I think is also quite interesting, is seduction and where it comes from and whatnot. So, do you mind maybe discussing, what seduction is and where it comes from, and if there's any maybe psychological findings behind it? I know it's probably a loaded topic, but I'm sure you have a lot of expertise with this.
Sure. Seduction, in my opinion, is an important part of a sexual experience. And most of the time, people think about seduction in the context of two people who are single, or maybe they want for the first time or the first times to be in a sexual relationship. But the way that I look at it is to create suspense in a sexual relationship and anticipation. It doesn't matter how long you've been in a relationship with someone. I think you can, and in fact, I think it's important that you do approach you do incorporate seduction into that sexual experience as well. So this means that you want to create a level of safety in that interaction, which is really important, psychological safety. And then you want to create a level of sexual excitement as well. And this balance is really key. And that's what many people find challenging, because if you create too much safety and not enough sexual excitement, you can get friend zoned, or the other person, might just see you as a very safe person to talk about different things, but not necessarily see you as a sexual partner. And the other hand as well, if you create too much sexual excitement and not enough safety, then you can come across as too much or predatory. And so, getting the balance of psychological safety and sexual excitement right is really key in that seduction. So, this means, for example, let's just create a hypothetical scenario that there are two single people dating. So, creating psychological safety is by an open, warm body language, warm eye contact that you have with the person, and then you start off by maybe some topics that are non-sexual. It could be anything, the weather, some mutual interests that you have. And then you pay attention to the other person's body language. Are they engaged? Are they communicating with you as well, reciprocating? Then um, you can escalate. You can escalate to the next step, and maybe then gradually bring up a sexual topic. Maybe talking about past experiences. Have you had a partner in the past, or it could be anything really, depending on the context and depending on the people who are having that conversation. And again, pay attention to the person and see their body language. Are they engaged? Are they turning away? Are they breaking the eye contact because they're uncomfortable? So you really need to continuously assess the situation. And if you feel that person's uncomfortable, take a step back, go where you were, where there was still comfort and the person was engaged. And if you feel that the person is still disengaged, you can verbalize that and say, look, I feel like maybe I said something that made you uncomfortable. I just want to apologize because it wasn't my intention, and want to see where the discomfort is. And this again is creating psychological safety, because the person realizes that you are interested in their sense of safety and well-being, and you don't want to basically you're not a predator. And it's the same when you want with physical touch as well. So maybe you want to start physical touch by touching the hand somewhere completely non sexual. And then pay attention. Do they reciprocate? Do they smile? Is their body language open? Then you can escalate. Maybe, put your hand on their arm. It's just continuously playing with that psychological safety and sexual arousal as well. And finally, for example, if you want to leave the date, you can let them know, I really enjoyed the chat that we had or the interaction that we have, and I'm really interested in seeing you again. But I understand if you're too busy or if you're not interested, that's absolutely fine. I just want you to know that I really enjoyed our time together. This creates an exit, psychological exit for the person. And our brain is wired in a way that if we have an exit, we are much more likely to consider the options that are available to us. But if we feel trapped, we are just looking for an exit. We don't listen to what the other person is saying.
Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah, especially that last point. I think a lot of people can probably relate to that, and maybe feeling trapped at one point or whatnot. Now, Anissa, maybe if you don't mind briefly touching, like if something is just maybe not working with one party, but then the other party it is working. Um, is there any way that that one party that it is working for can kind of smooth things over and communicate a little bit better, or is it something that they just need to kind of cut their losses with?
Can you give me a scenario, like an example that I can
Yeah,
work with?
absolutely. Maybe two people went on a date, or maybe two people had just had sex for the first time. And, one person in the party really enjoyed spending time with the other person, but the other person didn't enjoy it at all. Is there anything that, and there's kind of maybe mixed messages or whatnot. Is there anything that they can do to better communicate, or that one person that really enjoyed it can do to I guess win that person or
I think it again is very contextual and it depends on the type of mixed messages that they have received.
yeah.
Sometimes it may be worth verbalizing it and just saying, look, I noticed that you said this, but your body language was this, and I'm a little bit confused and I'm curious to know what's going on for you. I just want to understand. So approaching it with curiosity rather than judgment. So that can give you some further information. And what's interesting is that sometimes we may have misinterpreted the person's, say, body language. Yeah. So maybe the person is just uncomfortable because of the environment that we were in. Maybe the person's wearing something that is really tight or uncomfortable. Maybe they're wearing maybe a wool jacket that is making them uncomfortable. So the source of discomfort is not us, but something external. And so when you ask them, they can clarify. And again, it's a very human experience that we tend to interpret things as if they're all about us. So if someone shows some signs of discomfort, the first way that our brain interprets this is that, they don't like me or there's something wrong with me. Whereas there may be many other factors that has influenced that particular behavior. So seek clarification. And the end of the day, there is no guarantee that the other person is always interested in us. They may not be interested, but that's just part of life.
Absolutely. Anissa, where can people find you or work with you? Do you have any social media or website, or is there anything out there that people can I guess find you?
Sure. So my website is relatesexology.com and also on Instagram, Relate Sexology. And I'm happy to share the links with you, Jordan. You can share them with your audience. So I have a clinic in North Adelaide, and I also see people virtually online as well.
Perfect. Thank you. And everybody, that will be in the show notes. So you can find Anissa there. Anissa, thank you so much for chatting on the podcast. I think this was very informative. And I am so happy that you were able to kind of come on and help educate us all a bit more.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.